Do you feel trapped by your own thoughts, stuck in an endless loop of anxiety or negativity that just won't let go of you? What if I told you that you have the power to change that right now from within your own mind? Well, you do. Applying the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy could be the key to changing the negative patterns in your mind, and thereby changing your life. The core principle of cognitive behavioral therapy is that by changing our thoughts, we can change how we feel and behave. To do this, it teaches techniques to recognize, challenge, and reframe negative thoughts. These techniques will help calm your mind and give you clarity and insight into how sometimes your thoughts and emotions deceive you. By applying these techniques, you can learn to control your thoughts and emotions instead of letting them control you. Cognitive behavioral therapy was founded as a way to treat depression by psychiatrist Dr. Aaron T. Beck in the 1960s. He observed that his patients often had negative and automatic thoughts that contributed to their emotional distress. By helping them recognize and change these thought patterns, he found that their symptoms improved significantly. This approach evolved into what we now know as cognitive behavioral therapy, and it is now commonly used to treat a wide range of mental health issues, including anxiety, phobias, and depression. The approach is based on ancient wisdom that focuses on the mind's power to shape our reality, a concept that has been explored for centuries. The Stoics believed that our thoughts, not external events, determine our experience of the world. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Similarly, Eastern philosophies like Buddhism and Taoism emphasize mindfulness and the importance of observing and understanding our thoughts. This practice of awareness and reflection is central to CBT as well. So when we talk about CBT, we're really tapping into a rich tradition of using the mind to influence our well-being, a practice as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Step 1. Identifying negative thoughts. The first step is identifying negative or distorted thoughts. Often these thoughts are automatic, slipping into our minds unnoticed, but they have a profound impact on our emotions and actions. Let's say you're feeling anxious about an upcoming event. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what's going through my mind right now? Notice any thoughts that arise. Perhaps you're thinking, I'll mess this up, or everyone will judge me. These are the types of thoughts we need to bring to the surface. There are 10 types of distorted thinking to specifically look out for. Catastrophizing. This involves expecting the worst possible outcome in any given situation, even when it's unlikely. For example, thinking, if I make a mistake at work, I'll get fired and then I'll lose everything. Black and white thinking, also known as all or nothing thinking, this distortion occurs when a person sees situations in extremes with no middle ground. For example, thinking, if I don't do this perfectly, I'm a complete failure. Overgeneralization. This happens when someone takes a single negative event and assumes it will continue to happen in other situations. For example, thinking, I failed this one test, so I'm going to fail all my classes and never succeed in life. Mental filtering. This distortion involves focusing exclusively on the negative aspects of a situation, while ignoring any positive aspects. For example, receiving multiple compliments on a presentation, but fixating on one piece of constructive criticism. disqualifying the positive. Similar to mental filtering, this distortion occurs when someone acknowledges positive experiences or achievements, but immediately dismisses them as unimportant or undeserved. For example, thinking, "They said I did a good job, but they were just being nice." Mind reading. This involves assuming you know what others are thinking, often without any real evidence, and usually assuming they are thinking negatively about you. For example, thinking, "She didn't say hello because she must be mad at me." Emotional reasoning. This occurs when someone assumes that their emotions reflect reality. For example, thinking, "I feel anxious, so something bad must be happening." Should statements. These involve placing unrealistic or rigid expectations on oneself or others, leading to feelings of guilt or frustration. For example, thinking, "I should always be successful," or "people should treat me with respect." Labeling. This distortion happens when someone attaches a global label to themselves or others based on one event or behavior. For example, thinking, "I'm a loser after making a mistake." Personalization. This involves taking responsibility for events that are outside of one's control, or blaming oneself for things that aren't one's fault. For example, thinking, "It's my fault my friend is upset. I should have known better." Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches individuals to recognize these patterns, challenge their accuracy, and replace them with more balanced and realistic thoughts. Step 2. Challenging and reframing negative thoughts. There are 10 techniques that cognitive behavioral therapy teaches that help patients to challenge and reframe distorted or negative thinking. These techniques are often used together, depending on the individual's needs and the specific distortions they're dealing with. The goal is to empower patients to take control of their thoughts, leading to healthier emotions and behaviors. Cognitive restructuring, also known as cognitive reframing. The first step is to become aware of negative or distorted thoughts. Patients learn to recognize patterns like catastrophizing or black and white thinking. Once identified, the individual questions the validity of the thought. This involves examining the evidence for and against the thought, considering alternative perspectives and assessing its realism. The distorted thought is then replaced with a more balanced, realistic, and positive thought. Instead of thinking, "I'm a failure," one might reframe it to, "I made a mistake, but I can learn from it and improve." Behavioral experiments. Testing beliefs. Patients are encouraged to test the validity of their negative thoughts through real-world experiments. For instance, if someone believes they will fail at a task, they might be encouraged to attempt it and observe the outcome, often discovering that their fear was exaggerated. Gathering evidence. These experiments provide evidence to support or refute the distorted thought, helping to weaken its hold. Writing down thoughts. Patients keep a journal of their negative thoughts, noting the situation that triggered the thought, the emotions it caused, and the cognitive distortions involved. Analyzing and rewriting. They then analyze these thoughts using cognitive restructuring techniques, challenging and reframing them as needed. The worst-case scenario technique involves exploring the worst-case scenario that the patient fears and then assessing its actual likelihood. Coping strategies. Patients then think about how they would cope with this worst-case scenario, which often reduces the fear associated with it. Socratic guided discovery. The therapist asks a series of open-ended questions to help the patient explore their thoughts and beliefs. Questions like, "What evidence do you have for this belief?" Or, What's another way to look at this situation? Encourage patients to think critically and develop insights into their distorted thinking. Observing thoughts. Patients are taught to observe their thoughts without judgment, recognizing that thoughts are not necessarily facts. This mindfulness approach helps reduce the emotional impact of negative thoughts. Acceptance. Instead of trying to eliminate negative thoughts, patients learn to accept them as temporary mental events, reducing their influence over behavior. Role-playing scenarios. Patients practice different responses to situations that trigger distorted thoughts. By acting out scenarios, they can explore new ways of thinking and behaving, which helps reinforce positive changes. Replacing negative thoughts. Patients are encouraged to develop positive affirmations or engage in positive self-talk to counteract negative thinking patterns. This can help build self-esteem and resilience over time. Facing fears. For thoughts related to anxiety or phobias, patients might gradually expose themselves to the feared situation in a controlled way. This helps reduce the fear response over time and challenges the underlying distorted thoughts. Identifying problems. Patients learn to identify specific problems contributing to their distress. Generating solutions. They then brainstorm potential solutions, evaluate the pros and cons, and implement the best option. This practical approach can reduce feelings of helplessness associated with distorted thinking. CBT offers powerful tools that can benefit everyone by fostering a more resilient and balanced mindset. Understanding these techniques equips you with the ability to manage everyday stress, challenge negative thoughts, and improve your overall mental well-being. However, while these techniques are valuable, they are not a substitute for professional help in cases of acute mental distress. If you find that your negative thoughts and emotions are overwhelming, persistent, or interfere significantly with your daily life, it's crucial to seek support from a qualified mental health professional who can guide you in this and other techniques of therapy and healing. Situations where professional treatment might be necessary include severe or chronic anxiety and depression. If you're experiencing intense sadness, hopelessness, or anxiety that doesn't seem to improve over time, thoughts of self-harm or suicide. If you're having thoughts of hurting yourself or others, immediate help is necessary. Please reach out to a crisis hotline or a mental health professional right away. Inability to function in daily life. If your mental state is affecting your ability to work, maintain relationships, or carry out everyday activities. Trauma or PTSD. If you've experienced a traumatic event and are struggling with flashbacks, nightmares, or severe emotional distress, remember, reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Professionals can provide the tailored support and treatment necessary to help you navigate through difficult times. The techniques we've discussed today are valuable tools, but they work best when used in conjunction with professional guidance, especially for those facing more serious challenges. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit from these insights. And always remember, taking care of your mind is just as important as taking care of your body. Stay well, and until next time, take care of yourself and those around you.